Friday morning. Good morning. Here's looking at you, kid. I drink coffee to you. And Tiger Woods. I didn't have to get up an hour early and do San Antonio's first news this morning, so I slept into 3:35 this morning. Woo! Slacking this morning, just sleeping in. We'll talk Tiger this morning, as we should, as God intended. Opening day, Houston Astros undefeated. That's a beautiful thing. We lose a great Dallas Cowboy, Rayfield Wright. Boxing legend, Oscar De La Hoya, going to join us at 8:35. It's pretty cool. Here we go.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
Mute for our evil Facebook overlords.
Now, Chris Duel.
Oh my goodness. What a day in sports it was yesterday. Not only opening day of Major League Baseball, but the big story, the Masters, and the incredible performance by Tiger Woods. 71, a 100 par 71. We now have evidence to work with. It was all speculation, and hearing what we heard about Tiger Woods on the practice rounds that he did at Augusta National Golf Course. We now know that in that field, he is, after one round, tied for 10th, which is absolutely amazing. There was a point about a week ago where we didn't even know if Tiger would play or not. 2-3 weeks ago, highly unlikely that Tiger would play. A month and multiple months ago, nobody really believed that Tiger Woods would compete in the Masters. And our expectation then would have been, if he ever plays again, if he ever is at the Masters or a major PGA event, well, it'll just be nice. It'll be symbolic. It'll be nice to see him out there swinging the golf club. Chris Duel show with Shannon, Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok is your Soundscape Stylist. Some great guests this morning, including boxing legend Oscar De La Hoya and Coach A, Paul Alexander. But Shannon, Salty Sweeney, my goodness gracious, I don't think, and maybe because he's Tiger, and there were some people out there because he's Tiger who thought, oh yeah, Tiger, he'll be in first place after round one. A 100 par 71, tied for 10th after one round of the Masters, after a horrific traffic accident just over a year ago that could have killed him, and apparently they were darn near amputating his leg. The term miraculous comes to mind, Shannon. I am amazed at what we saw yesterday.
Well, and we're not just getting a guy who's out there playing golf, hobbling around. I mean, we are getting the Tiger Woods that we are familiar with receiving at the Masters. I mean, he was completely in it yesterday. You mentioned his score and how well he's playing. He finds himself in a great spot going into day two. There was even a moment where the ball, he struck it. It landed just at the edge of the green, and it ended up rolling back. And we got some, vintage Tiger audio. Can't play it for you here. Not radio appropriate, but just an incredible showing by Tiger. And I think it was very much planned for him to wear that bright pink shirt yesterday, because everyone's already going to be watching Tiger, but if you weren't, you were going to be looking. If you forgot he was going to be there, he was noticeable yesterday in that pink shirt.
I'm just I'm still amazed, and now the speculation is, Shannon, we got 3 more rounds to go, and obviously he's got mobility issues. This is 72 holes of golf. He has not played 2 consecutive rounds of golf at the Masters or anywhere, I believe, since the last time he played the Masters before the pandemic. So today will be yet another test for Tiger Woods. How's his body holding up on day 2? Will it degrade over time and become more difficult for him? Tiger, in his comments after that round yesterday, mentioned, Tiger probably consulting our chief meteorologist, Jeremy Kolok, says he expects the conditions of that course to get worse and more difficult, which, and obviously Tiger, knows every element associated with the weather and that course and how that course responds to rain and wind and inclement weather. But I would think if that's actually true, Shannon, that benefits Tiger Woods. I mean, I think he knows that Augusta National course inside out. And if the conditions of the course do get weirder, he's probably more equipped if other golfers' scores, ascend as far as, how many strokes they get, as opposed to, the leader right now being 5 under par. Who knows if Tiger can keep this going? What I love about this, Shannon, is 24 hours ago, let's be honest, we were kind of dreaming that Tiger would turn in an excellent performance and that Tiger would be in contention. I love dream endings. I love Hollywood finishes. I was the guy who wanted Coach K and Duke to win the national championship so that he could go off riding off into the sunset. We're 1 round into the Masters, Shannon, and we still got a shot, those of us pulling for Tiger to win it this weekend. He is in contention, and that was very much in doubt going into this 24 hours ago, whether or not he could perform at this level and be tied for 10th after 1 round.
Well, just to kind of play devil's advocate here, because we were talking about the weather and the potential that the course might play even harder. I'm curious. I think typically that would play to a Tiger and his advantage of obviously having played the course several times and just being the golfer that he is. But I wonder, he's been in recovery, right? I mean, these other players have been on tour and have had to deal with the conditions as they come, versus I feel like if you're in recovery and it's raining outside or whatever, you're like, well, I'm not going to practice today because it's, the conditions aren't what they should be. So I don't know if he's how weather protected or weather ready he is, but I think anyone to ever doubt Tiger in anything is probably in the wrong. And we are asking today on Ticket 760 Twitter and AM 1300 The Zone, after Tiger Woods' 71 round in round 1 of the Masters, what is your expectation for him the rest of the tournament? So far, most of our votes going to middle of the pack. No one voting that he will have a complete collapse, then miss the cut. Also, no one voting that he will win the Masters, but some saying he will at least be in the top 10.
Yeah, and I have yet to vote. I'm going to vote here during this segment. I'm going to vote. I think he'll be in the top 10. I mean, that's where he is right now. He's tied for 10th with a few other guys. So, I mean, you could argue he's like in the top 15, but he's tied for 10th. And, I think he goes into today's round. And as you have just let me know, you sent me a message, Shannon. Thank you. Tiger will tee off today at 12:41 p.m. So he will be, the feature of all the television coverage. If you wanted to watch Tiger tee off yesterday, you had to go search for it. You had to go to masters.com, and, it wasn't on the major television network coverage. So beginning today in round 2, let's synchronize our watches. And any of you at work today, take the day off starting at 12:41. If you're in the morning, just, tell your boss, I'm getting a little sore throat. I think I better go home at lunch. And you can catch all of it at 12:41. Want to check in with our Soundscape stylist, Jeremy Kolok. Soundscape stylist and chief meteorologist, Jeremy Kolok. Jeremy, Your thoughts on Tiger Woods, the performance that he turned in yesterday in round 1 at the Masters?
It was good morning to both of y'all. It was inspirational to me. I mean, watching him walk out for his first tee, and I mean, I was getting chills. I don't know about y'all. I was getting chills watching it. Um, as far as weather looking, it got pretty windy on the course as the afternoon rolled around yesterday, which kind of dried it out. And so, long story short, today I think the course is going to be pretty bouncy. I think we're going to see balls bouncing a lot more than we did yesterday. We kind of saw them just a lot of the balls just kind of drop and lose their momentum because the course was still a little bit damp yesterday because it just thunderstormed hard on Tuesday and a little bit on Wednesday. But I think I was reading a thing from a golf guy who he was saying he walked around last night and it was much drier than before because it was really, really windy. You could kind of see how windy it was with some of the balls carrying yesterday. So I think we're going to see a lot of bouncing today.
Good. It'll be very, very fascinating. And Shannon, if Tiger Woods can just keep this going, my goodness, it was, as Jeremy mentions, it gave him the chills to see Tiger walking up to that first tee. He got a resounding ovation. He was like a conquering hero returning from a war, back to the city streets of his home country. It seemed it was almost like mythological watching him walk. And you mentioned that bright pinkish shirt that he wore, which was like you can't miss it. It's like somebody turned the lights on that shirt. If Tiger can continue to perform at this level, and even if he didn't, that first round, my goodness, it was tremendous, and he proves, this is his first tournament coming back from the horrible traffic accident. I think it proves that he is a force to be reckoned with. If he's only going to get better in his rehab, watch out, golf world, because Tiger ain't done yet. But Shannon, if indeed he plays like this through the next 3 rounds and is in contention on Sunday, we talk about all the great big sporting events, the Super Bowl, the Final Four, the World Series, NBA Finals. This is going to be a tremendous spectacle all weekend long through Sunday if Tiger Woods keeps this going.
Chris, you're talking about Tiger keeping it going. How about the people around him that are following him? You mentioned the crowds, and just looking at some of the photos yesterday from Tiger Woods. There's one photo in particular, and I'm not sure which hole it's on. But obviously, if you're in that crowd, you got to fight for a chance to actually see Tiger and be close up to Tiger. There's one guy who's almost looks like he's walking in stride with Tiger, and he's got 13 beer cups stacked up. And we talked about how cheap the beer is, right? So it's not like he's breaking the bank, but that's day one. Again, not sure what hole that's on, but that dude is somehow seemingly grabbing a beer at each hole, chugging it, and then able to walk next to Tiger as they make the move to the next one. I mean, seeing those fans keep up for the next couple of days, I think will be just as entertaining as watching Tiger himself.
Well, and as you mentioned that, Shannon, so many Tiger fans out there on the course with him, including the dude with the 13 beer cups, which, by the way, reminds me of night in old San Antonio during Fiesta. I mean, that was when I was in high school, and we had fake IDs and we're underage drinking. I'm not proud of that. Don't recommend that, kids. Don't do it. I was a stupid young person. But that was like how we would, the way you could show what a man you were was how many beer cups can you stack? And not an old saying, whoa, I got 10. Now the beers are like 4 ounces. Back in the 1970s, they were like 16-ounce beer, maybe 12-ounce beer cups at night in old San Antonio, Niosa. Now it's like 4 ounces and you pay $12.50 for them. But 13 beer dude. And Shannon, you've talked about the reasonable pricing for concessions at the Masters. But it reminds me, and granted, while most of the crowd is well behaved, for Tiger, and I'm assuming it fuels him, but in those moments, Shannon, where fans can be vocal, and again, the cheering for him as he walked up to that first tee was resounding and deafening. But, that's on a certain level for a lot of people, maybe that would be a distraction. All of that cheering, every move you make other than when you hit the golf ball when they tend to be quiet. But I got to believe it's fueling Tiger Woods. And Shannon, you think about it, this is the best thing he does, golf. This is his best tournament, his showcase, the Masters. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the late mythologist Joseph Campbell, and his mantra is follow your bliss in life. Find what your passion is, follow it. That's what you should be doing. That's your vein of gold. And here's Tiger Woods doing the thing that he was born to do on this planet, doing it at a relatively advanced age for the PGA Tour, and doing it after a horrific traffic accident. Shannon, I can't say enough of it. Jeremy said it gave him the chills. The more I think about what we witnessed yesterday and what we will witness today and throughout the weekend at Augusta, it blows my mind. It is one of the amazing moments in sports. And as we've talked about, Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, Hank Aaron, Babe Ruth, some of these athletes and these moments in sports that they happen and then those moments are gone forever. Well, this moment is happening right now. Yeah. This is a historic moment in sports, in the life and career of one of the greatest of all time in all sports. And I would argue the greatest of all time in golf. And, we get a front row seat. We get to watch it all weekend.
You're talking about that. I'm reminded of, when the accident happened, where he was heading. He was heading to the golf course, I think, to play with Drew Brees, because he was part of some show they were filming where Tiger was golfing with, celebrities and athletes who have had, as you say, those big and memorable moments. And obviously, that show got put out to the, on the table after the accident. But now even more than ever, I'm wanting that show and to hear those conversations that he could have with those athletes, particularly after this latest comeback.
Yeah. What if they did the same show and reminded people, this was the show, this was the interview with Drew Brees on the golf course that I was headed to that day. I mean, that would make it all the more powerful. All right. We got so much coming at you this morning. 8:35, boxing legend Oscar De La Hoya going to join us. He is promoting his Golden Boy Promotions fight taking place, a whole card, of course, going on at the Alamo Dome tomorrow, featuring Ryan Garcia and Emmanuel Tago. We'll talk about that fight coming up and everything boxing and everything in the life of, you talk about GOATs. Oscar De La Hoya, one of the greatest, most legendary boxers ever. He'll join us at 8:35. Coach A, Paul Alexander. Among other things, I'm sure Paul will talk about. We lost a great Dallas Cowboy, Hall of Famer last night, Rayfield Wright. I had the privilege and the honor of meeting Rayfield Wright, one of the kindest, most decent human beings you will ever meet, and one of the best darn offensive tackles in the history of football. We'll talk about that. NFL, I'm sure. We'll talk Tiger and opening day with Paul Alexander. Shannon Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays. And how do you feel about Tiger? How's he going to do? Either in our poll question or on the talkback on the free iHeartRadio app, very, very bottom of the screen, you've got a microphone button. We want to hear your thoughts on Tiger and how you think he's going to do in this tournament, and we'll play him on the air. Talk back to us on the Talkback feature. Jeremy Kolok is your Soundscape Stylist. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Haas Holding, welcome in. What up, Haas? Let's see who I see in here. Tracy Bogert, John Williams, who said rest in peace, Rayfield Wright. Hector Gomez, Anthony Del Toro, Beth Settle. Good morning, Beth. Eric Winchester, Haas Holding, the wrestler. Haas says, if Tiger is in the mix Sunday, I am watching. If not, I probably will not be watching. It is what it is. Tiger is our historic time in sports. I'm kind of the same way, Hoss. I might be watching Sunday if it weren't for, because it's the Masters. It's a big deal. So, but I'm not a huge golf guy. But Tiger, as they say, Tiger doesn't just move the needle. Tiger is the needle. So let's see. John Aliman, welcome in from Houston. No relation, I'm assuming, to Alfredo Aleman, one of my all-time favorite sportscasters in San Antonio back in the 70s. He was known as My Pal Al Aleman. Yeah, Eric, you're right. Yeah. We talk a little Masters, but you're absolutely right. If it weren't for Tiger, man, we wouldn't be this hardcore into the Masters. Yeah, John, I didn't think so. I just threw that out. When I see that last name, he was on Channel 4 in San Antonio in the early 70s. He's passed away since. Yeah, Andre Agassi was great in tennis. Bjorn Borg, John McEnroe, that whole group. All right, I'm going to be back in a sec. Give you a little more Jeremy. I'm getting some ice for my ice coffee my iced tea. And going to grab some coffee. All right. Jeremy Kolok, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in, everybody, on Facebook Live. If we got any newbies, welcome. High five play of the day coming up. Tracy, if you're still with us, it might have something to do with an undefeated baseball team out of the Houston area. Luisa Alanis, welcome in. Yeah, Jeremy stayed up late watching Astros. I stayed up late, and not as late because it was a little earlier. Watching the Spurs. We'll talk Spurs. They lose last night to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the New Orleans Pelicans win over Portland, which that one was expected. So it's very likely now that the Spurs won't catch New Orleans for the 9 slot because the Spurs are now 2 games back with 2 games to play. So 4 games have to go perfectly. Spurs have to win their last 2. New Orleans has to lose their last 2. In fact, let me now, luckily, New Orleans is done playing Portland. Everybody beats Portland. But let me, if I have time here, pull up the final 2 games for the Pelicans. I know one of them is Golden State, just like the Spurs. The other one isn't easy either. It might be Memphis. So neither of those games for the Pelicans are easy ones. Let's see. Here comes their schedule. Final 2 games for the Pelicans are at Memphis tomorrow night. That ain't easy. And then Golden State, who the Spurs play tomorrow night, then goes to New Orleans for the last game of the year. So Spurs have to beat Golden State on tomorrow night, Saturday night at the AT&T Center, then win at Dallas on Sunday. That's a back-to-back. And New Orleans has to lose at Memphis, and then Golden State needs to go beat them, which would be a back-to-back for Golden State. So, Lucinda Sullivan, welcome in. Here we go.
Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
It is a Friday. It is April 8th. on a beautiful sports weekend. Little highway to the danger zone. Kenny Loggins from Top Gun. Thank you, Jeremy Kolok, our soundscape stylist and chief meteorologist on the show. We talk a lot of Masters and a lot of Tiger. Somebody was saying in the live video feed during the break, I think it was Eric Winchester saying, you know, you guys wouldn't be talking this much about the Masters if Tiger wasn't involved. And that's true. I mean, we would talk about the Masters. It's a big deal. We cover golf on this show. Shannon's heavily into it. Andy Everett, our golf guru, very heavily into it. I enjoy the big storylines and the big tournaments like the Masters. So we would talk about it, but not obviously Tiger. You know, I keep saying this. It's such a great line, and I've heard it a lot. And so have you. Tiger doesn't just move the needle. Tiger is the needle. And yeah, Haas Holding, a wrestler, friend of the show, said, you know, I may not be watching on Sunday, but if Tiger is in contention, I will be watching. And there's a lot of people like that who might not be tuning into the Masters, but you know, Tiger's an icon. He's the GOAT. He's like reminiscent to me. I was alive when Muhammad Ali was, you know, at the height of his powers. And speaking of boxing, Oscar De La Hoya, boxing legend, going to join us at 8:35 this morning. But Ali was the same way. There were people who weren't into boxing, but they were into Muhammad Ali. And when Ali would box, they would tune in. It's like, if you build it, he will come. If you build it, they will come. People will tune in. And that's the way it is with Tiger Woods. If you got any thoughts on Tiger, how you think he's going to do, not only can you vote in the poll question, we're asking you, now that we've seen a very good round, 1 under par 71 from Tiger Woods, we're asking you how you feel he'll do in the tournament moving forward, and we give you 4 choices. But if you want to put it in your own words, a great way to reach out to us is that talkback feature. You go to the free iHeartRadio app, listen to us via either AM 1300 The Zone or Ticket 760. There's a little microphone button at the bottom. You push that, you leave your message, you send it to us. We get it instantly, and we will play you in your own voice. It doesn't have to be about Tiger, but that's a good idea. You can talk about anything you want us to hear, good or bad. Call your shot for the weekend. All right. You can also dial us up on the phone lines, 800-707-9760. Coach A, Paul Alexander, going to join us just after 7 o'clock. As I mentioned, boxing legend Oscar De La Hoya and his company, Golden Boy Promotions, bringing a tremendous boxing card and title fight to San Antonio and the Alamo Dome tomorrow. We'll get into all of that with Oscar De La Hoya. And don't forget the live video feed. You can get to it via YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitter. But right now, it is time for the high five play of the day. We pass out the high fives every morning at this time. And the high five play of the day is appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area. Look around when you walk in there. You may see Shannon Sweeney wielding an axe, or welding an axe. You could have like some welding tools that, make the axe perform better. But wielding an axe would be more accurate. Shannon, tell the people what they might discover if they step into a High Five location.
Delicious eats and even better treats. They do chocolate well there. They've got some great donuts as well as the biggest brownie I've ever seen, topped with ice cream and all of the decadence that you could desire after you finish your meal like a grown adult. Probably a salad or one of their great. I'm in a wing phase right now. I'm just obsessed with chicken wings, and they've got some great wings out there at High Five, and obviously TVs galore to catch all of the action that is taking place. The NBA season winding down, baseball heating up, and of course the Masters all weekend long. And Chris, as we know, opening day was officially yesterday. Not all teams played, but most did, and one of those being our beloved Astros. They did not have first pitch until right when I went to bed, just past 8:30. That is when they will play the Angels again. And, obviously, Jeremy and myself, we've been very into baseball the last couple of days. We've been playing MLB The Show on our game devices at our homes. And the title person, the front cover man, is Shohei Ohtani of the Angels, the two-way man. And he had a great game. He had a great outing yesterday against the Astros with 9 outs and a hitless venture out at the plate. But that wasn't enough, sir, because once Ohtani was out of the game, the Astros, and specifically Alex Bregman, were back, and they ultimately got the win 3-1 to start the season. They are undefeated. Undefeated, the Houston Astros are. And Alex Bregman is back. He hit a homer to bring the score up to 2-1 and also had an RBI. He had a total of 2 hits. He kind of got lost there in the World Series, so it was nice to see him back and be back come game 1. It's also the Astros' 10th straight win for openers for opening day. 10 straight opening day wins for the Astros. They play again against the Angels once again tonight. Another 8:30 start for them, but a great way to start the season. Who knows how long they'll remain undefeated, but for right now, we can say the Astros are undefeated and are one of baseball's best.
I got my cardboard.
You are,
Breggy
yeah.
here
You're
on
holding
the live
Bregman.
video feed. We got cardboard Breggy in the studio. It's like a fathead cardboard Alex Bregman. Yeah, and Shannon, you make a great point. Shohei Ohtani is a phenom, and I mean, obviously the LA Angels put him on the mound because they thought, he was their best chance to beat the Astros on opening night. And start the chase, the 162 game chase in the American League West off right. And the Astros, even though, I just think that's a huge opening day win for the Astros, and obviously long way to go. We talked with Scott Manziera, our baseball guy, yesterday. He thinks the Astros will easily win the AL West. The Angels concern me. So, to withstand an outstanding 5 innings on the mound by Shohei Ohtani and still get out of there with the 3-1 win over the Angels is huge. Now, all eyes last night, Shannon, were on Jeremy Pena, the shortstop. He obviously replacing Carlos Correa. It's interesting. I saw John McClain, the longtime Houston Chronicle writer, who mainly covers the NFL, but talks all sports. In fact, he's retiring, by the way, from what I hear. He said he's watched every Astros game since 1962. And he said no Astro has been under more pressure than Jeremy Pena is now and will be, having to replace a legend, Carlos Correa, and one of the fan favorites, Carlos Correa, in that Astros lineup. Now, at bat, not pretty for Jeremy Pena. He was 0 for 4. He struck out twice. Ohtani struck him out in his first at-bat. But in the field, playing shortstop, I saw a lot of highlights this morning because I was doing the Spurs broadcast last night. It was hard for me to track that Astros game as it unfolded. But by all accounts, as a shortstop last night, fielding the ball, Jeremy Pena looked very, very good, and just a great opening day win for the Houston Astros. Good to see them starting out on the right foot and withstanding Ohtani. And if so many people, and it's going to be interesting, Shannon, to see if Jeremy Pena can live up to expectations. But if he does, you're not going to be a Carlos Correa, but if he can be a very good shortstop, obviously the Astros are paying him infinitely less than they had to pay Correa or would have had to pay him if they kept him. That would give them money to go do other things. If the Astros are in contention, midsummer come trading deadline, maybe they add some parts. Maybe they add a pitching ace somewhere like they did the year they got Justin Verlander in 2017 to add him to their pitching staff, and then they went on to win the World Series. So, a long way to go. And I lament the 162 game Major League Baseball schedule a lot, but 1 down, 161 to go. Great start for the Astros.
Chris, I don't know if you're a Jeopardy guy, But I have it on in the background from time to time. As you know, it's on in the afternoons. I'm doing other things, and I never seem to get to watch these episodes live where they have the folks with the crazy, fun answers or the moments that go viral. But yesterday, the final Jeopardy clue, and I'll go ahead and give it to you to see if you even know. It says patented in 1955. Okay. It did not go over well in the high-end fashion world, but the then new aerospace industry found it very useful.
Ooh. Velcro?
Yes.
Wow.
You go. That is Final Jeopardy.
My goodness.
But one gentleman went ahead and wrote, he said, what is, I'm going to lose, but the Mets will win it all this year. Some opening day action on, there you go, on Jeopardy.
As a fan, you got to like that. If you or I or Jeremy were on Shannon and would have said, but the Astros are going to win it all this year, or but the Cowboys.
Yeah, shout out your team.
Delusional, but yeah. I mean, if you're going to lose anyway, make a statement. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. We got to check in, Shannon, with Jeremy. He said on our live video feed, he stayed up way too late watching Astros baseball last night.
I couldn't
Jeremy,
find it.
you like Shannon have been playing the game last night, or have been playing the video game since it dropped earlier this week. Did you feel like more of a baseball player because you've had so much baseball action this week in big league ballparks? Were you kind of critiquing the Astros and saying, "Hey, man, I could have swung and I could have hit that ball from Ohtani"?
Yeah. I felt like I'm definitely seeing the ball better coming out of Ohtani's hand, and then when it's crossing that plate at 100+ miles per hour consistently, I felt like I could read it a little bit better. But I actually have a question for you, Chris, and maybe for you, Shannon, but I'm not sure if it applies to you the same. So I see that the Astros are going to face Shohei Ohtani last night, who, by the way, is the first player in MLB history, to my knowledge, who throws and faces the first pitch of the season for his team.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But so I'm watching this game because I want to see the Astros, a talented team, face Shohei Ohtani. And, we live not too far from Houston. So I'm looking for this game, and it's not on locally for me, at least. Maybe it is for others. And so I'm like, all right, well, maybe I'm going to have to watch it illegally, not to snitch on myself. But the MLB makes it much more difficult to watch games illegally than other leagues.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to, risk anything there. So what I did is I signed up for a free trial with MLB.com, like whatever their Game Pass thing is. I don't know. And I'm like, all right, let's do this. I'll cancel this after a week or whatever, maybe use a new email, but I just want to watch this game tonight on opening day. I want to watch Ohtani and the Astros. And it's blacked out, even though I did this free subscription, free trial thing or whatever. And, I read down the regulations of the MLB blackout rules, and I just got angry all over again at baseball. I felt the same way I felt during the lockout again.
That is and this is why baseball has issues. And I know we're up against it here, but we got to get here. You were a guy hungering for Astros baseball. And oh, by the way, a blackout. We're 200 miles west of Houston. I mean, I could, and it's an away game. I mean, if it were at Minute Maid Park and you want to black it out in the Houston area until the stadium sells out, maybe that's what blackouts were supposed to be for. Shannon, how do you feel about what Jeremy just described?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time last night wanting to watch the game, sitting on my phone, trying to find different ways to be able to watch the Astros. And that's when I ultimately just said, well, it's my bedtime anyway. I guess I'll just go to bed. And we talked about, Apple Plus TV getting the Friday night baseball. I think Paramount Plus has just announced something for Sunday night baseball. So even though I guess more games will be available, they'll all be through paid subscriptions, which I think makes it harder to then find, get free games or just regular games that you're used to seeing on TV.
You make a great point, though, and I forgot about that till you said it, Shannon. Tonight's Astros game will be on Apple Plus TV, which I luckily have, and you do too. So yeah, Astros Angels tonight, first pitch 8:38. If you want to see if the Astros can go 2-0, that's a huge, huge point. We got a lot to talk about with Coach A, Paul Alexander, including Paul, like me, was watching the Cowboys in the Landry era. And last night, Hall of Famer, he was known as the Big Cat, Rayfield Wright, passed away. And he was not just a great football player, he was a great man. And I'm sure Paul is going to have some comments. I saw him post on Facebook last night. He said, I can't speak, when he got the news that Rayfield Wright passed away. So we'll talk Cowboys, Rayfield opening day, and Tiger with Coach A, Paul Alexander. Boxing legend Oscar De La Hoya joins us at 8:35. Thank you for hanging out with us this morning. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. You're listening to The Chris Duel Show. Tom Cunanan saying it's the same with NBA League Pass. That was a tremendous point you shared, because I think so many fans can relate to it. I'm seeing Tom on our live video feed saying that happens to him with Spurs games and NBA League Pass. That was it's a great point, and it speaks to what's wrong with baseball. I love that you shared that. Yeah, and if you would just open it up to fans, you'd get more fans, you get more engagement, people would buy more merchandise. Yeah, they don't get it. All right, Jason saying Bally Sports and the MLB make it easy to become a pirate. See, I don't know how to do that. I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. Okay, thank you. I am not beyond breaking the law if I got to see a game. All right. David, welcome. Dave Emilio Castanuela, Jason Paniagua, Tom Cunanan. Eric, thank you. I don't know if I'm wicked smart, but I got lucky on the Velcro. But see, I didn't say what is Velcro. So Shannon could have said, nope, you're wrong. You have to put it in the form of a question. What is Velcro? Maybe they will be again, Eric. Maybe this is the Rangers' year, man. Their first game tonight in Toronto, and Toronto's supposed to be real good this year. All right, I'm going to heat my coffee. I'll give you a little more Jeremy. You know him, you love him. You can't get enough of him. And I am guzzling my Strato tanker of coffee this morning. And I got to sleep into 3:30 this morning, so you would think I wouldn't need the coffee. Jason Paniagua, I'm dragging ass since I went to go see Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube last night. Where were they? I didn't even know about that, man. Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube, that's wild. Okay, I got to send an email here. Paul Alexander going to join us. Let me find my Paul Alexander photo. There he is. Paul will be joining us here in a bit. I'm going to eliminate that little banner at the bottom for the moment because it blocks Paul's name. We can't have that. Now, okay, let me see this. Paul Alexander joining us in just a few. Make sure I did this correctly. All right, did that. That's good. What else do we have? AT&T Center. No, man, I am so out of the loop, Jason. I can't believe I was unaware of the Snoop Dogg Ice Cube concert. We would have talked about that on the show. We still may, but we would have before the fact. Dave Emilio, I met Josh Hamilton once in Austin. He was playing for Round Rock. He was just hanging out at the mall. Super cool guy. Isn't that great when you meet an athlete or a celebrity and they're cool? I've had that go the other way a couple times. I mean, my Johnny Bench story. Johnny Bench was my favorite baseball player growing up, and I met him when I was about 22, and he was not nice. That's a rough experience. Okay, John, I'm unable to look at that YouTube right now, but thank you. I'll try to get a look at that later. See, what do we have here? Yeah, and John, you said this earlier, in Dallas, they black out the Spurs games. Well, because it's Mavericks territory, I can see that. Steve DeRocco, the original Rock, who with me met Rayfield Wright in Roger Staubach's suite in 2006. Here we come. The big cat, Rayfield Wright. We'll talk about him here with Paul. I'm going to mute for our evil Facebook overlords for just 1 second. Here we come.
Now, Chris Duel.
My goodness gracious. What a weekend of sports that is ahead of us. What a day in sports it was yesterday. Opening day of Major League Baseball. Houston Astros get the win before the night ends last night. They beat Shohei Ohtani and the LA Angels 3-1. They start the season 1-0. That's beautiful. Rangers will be in action tomorrow night. But Tiger Woods, what a story that was. Tied for 10th with a 1 under par 71. Who'd have predicted a performance like that just 24 hours ago? I mean, there were delusional people like me who would love to see Tiger perform great, but I admit I'm kind of delusional when it comes to wanting storybook performances. But Tiger, 1 round in, is certainly in contention in the Masters. Every Friday, this is one of our favorite segments of the week. Coach A, Paul Alexander, who is a Dallas Cowboys historian and savant, and not just Cowboys, but all of football, all of sports. And Paul, a Renaissance man, can talk about anything in or out of sports, as he often does on his wonderful website that we highly recommend, radicallyrational.com. Coach A, Paul Alexander, good Friday morning to you.
Chris, good morning. Obviously, it's a difficult morning for Dallas Cowboys fans for a variety of reasons, but wishing everybody a great Friday for sure. And you referenced Tiger Woods. As you know, I am rarely speechless, but I'm rendered that way. I mean, when you think about just the enormity of what he is accomplishing here, it really is staggering and something that nobody could ever have reasonably expected.
No doubt, Paul. And we're going to dive into Tiger with you. And I look forward to your perspective. I think you're going to put what Tiger has done into a perspective that few people can. But I must tell you, and you mentioned this at the outset, Paul, when I heard the news last night that the big cat, Rayfield Wright, offensive tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, who was not only a great football player and a Hall of Famer, but as you well know, and I as well had the opportunity to meet him, he was a great man, and he was a great story in life. And I saw your comments on Facebook about the passing of Rayfield Wright, and like you, I grew up watching the 1960s and 70s era Dallas Cowboys in the Tom Landry era, and Rayfield Wright. I was talking to Charlie Parker this morning, Paul, and he said Roger Staubach was commenting on the passing of Rayfield Wright, and Rayfield Wright once said, my job for the Cowboys was like being a Secret Service agent. Instead of protecting the president, I'm there to protect the quarterback. And Rayfield Wright did that in a big, big way.
He was just amazing, and his passing really hit me hard. We've known that Rayfield was having some physical issues the last couple of years, and sadly, it appears this is related to football-induced CTE. I'm really not prepared to deal with that part of this today. I will at some point. Right now, I would just like to celebrate the life of number 70. And for people who really don't know, just maybe introduce folks to his greatness. Rayfield Wright was a wonderful basketball player. He was an NBA prospect. Matter of fact, he had NBA tryouts lined up. He decided to go the football route and was initially a tight end because he had tight end skills. And after about a year and a half, Coach Landry decided that he wanted to make Rayfield Wright a tackle. And because Rayfield Wright was the ultimate team guy, he went, okay, I guess I'll go be a tackle. And his first start at tackle was in 1969, and it was a game between the 9-0 Rams and the 8-1 Cowboys. And Rayfield Wright's first starting assignment in the NFL is to block David Deacon Jones. Good luck with that. So knowing that he was going to start, a reporter earlier in the week had asked Rayfield Wright about this, and he was kind of babbling and hyperventilating. I'm talking about the reporter, not Rayfield. I said, well, how are you going to do this? Deacon Jones is big and he's fast. And Rayfield very quietly just said, I'm big and I'm fast. And the thing is, the Rams actually won that game 24-23, but Rayfield Wright handled Deacon Jones. And I know that because that was many years later confirmed to me by Deacon Jones. If you know anything about Deacon Jones, conceding anything like that, very difficult for him. So there's Rayfield, and the years of his career span, a change for me from adolescence into adulthood. But the one thing that never changed, except it just deepened, was my respect for Rayfield Wright. And keep in mind, he played almost his entire career, except for the last year, and by then he was pretty dinged up. But he played his entire career in an era in which offensive linemen couldn't use their hands. Can you imagine trying to block Deacon Jones and Carl Eller without being able to use your hands? But the key was he was a basketball player, okay? And he could get in front of you, and he could stay in front of you. And Chris, as you know, I put so much stock into how people's teammates feel about them. And there's never been a person who wore that star who was more universally revered by his teammates for 13 years than Rayfield Wright. He was just an amazing person. And teammates came and went, and eras came and went, and the constant there was Rayfield Wright. And he actually is the subject of my sports blog this morning at radicallyrational.com. But the thing I learned from him is not just in athletics, in everything you do your job. Just do your job. Whatever else is going on, do your job. You think Rayfield Wright cared about the blue jersey jinx, which is real, by the way, but Rayfield Wright was bigger than the blue jersey.
Yeah.
Jinx. But the cool thing as a Cowboy fan, and I remain this way, but I was so emotionally invested. It was a big, big, big deal to me, and it was a constant through age. Well, I mean, it started for me in about 1961, but as I grew into adulthood, the one thing I realized is do your job. And as a Cowboy fan, if you were nervous about a big upcoming game, and there are all these things you're worried about, the one thing you never had to worry about was number 70. Number 70 was going to do his job. So if we get beat, it's going to be for some other reason, because number 70 is going to do his job. Beyond that, Chris, as you cited, just a wonderful, wonderful gentleman. This one really hit me hard.
You talk about do your job, and when you do your job well in the NFL, you get paid, and you get paid handsomely. And one of the big stories this week out of the league is that new Stephon Diggs contract that comes out to about $24 million per year. And after that, one Deebo Samuels of the 49ers yesterday scrubbed his social media of all things 49ers. He's wanting a salary that matches that of Stephon Diggs. He's obviously one of the bigger names in that wide receiver category. Your thoughts on Stephon getting that contract and whether Deebo is worthy of something similar and if the Giants might come through for him?
Well, as you mentioned, the market has sure changed for quarterbacks and wide receivers. I mean, the bar has really been raised, and this is going to cause untold chaos. Anybody that was the least bit surprised that Stephon Diggs re-upped with the Bills was not living in the real world. I know there'd been some buzz about, maybe the Cowboys can get him and we can do the brother act. Let me tell you how the brother act works in the NFL. Your brother, if you're Stephon Diggs, your brother is Josh Allen, okay? If you think for a second that Stephon Diggs was going to leave Josh Allen, you're just living in a different universe. And now we've got all these reports about the Seahawks maybe being willing to trade DK Metcalf. That would be a game changer in a lot of ways, particularly in terms of, again, setting that market for wide receivers. My personal opinion is that I don't think they're going to wind up trading him. So we'll kind of see how that works out. But once again, from the standpoint of the Dallas Cowboys, we've got all these fantasies, and we think that the cosmos is going to bail us out. Well, Stephon Diggs ain't coming. I mean, that's just not happening. So we'll have to see what they wind up doing in the draft, because so far in free agency, there's been almost no movement whatsoever.
Yes, and we will certainly talk a lot of Cowboys with you, Paul, as that draft approaches and as that draft happens later this month. We will go hardcore into what the Cowboys do, because free agency, they certainly didn't get an A+ in free agency, both who they lost and who they acquired. Coach A, Paul Alexander of RadicallyRational.com. All right, Paul, we got to talk some Tiger Woods. I was telling Shannon and Jeremy this morning, I think of sports history and the greatest of all time, athletes who are the greatest of all time in their respective sports. Obviously, Muhammad Ali in boxing, Michael Jordan in basketball, baseball. We can pick a few. It's hard to say who's the GOAT, but guys like Hank Aaron and Willie Mays and Babe Ruth come to mind. Tiger Woods, Paul, we are witnessing history. When Ali took on George Foreman in Zaire in 1974 and was not supposed to survive it, George Foreman was knocking people out in 90 seconds, including Smoking Joe Frazier. Ali was, for a boxer, in an advancing age, and Foreman was this young dude who could not be beat, and Ali, the rope-a-dope, and the rest is history. Ali triumphed. What we are seeing Tiger Woods do, Paul, after that horrific traffic accident, could have killed Tiger Woods, darn near lost him his leg through amputation a week ago. For someone to say, hey man, he's gonna be a 1 under par 71 in the first round and be tied for 10th in contention after one round. A week ago, that would have been crazy. 2 months ago, even playing in the Masters was a crazy long shot. And if he did play, it would probably be symbolic. He'd be lucky to make the cut. But wouldn't it be a nice feel-good story if Tiger was out there swinging a golf club at Augusta? My goodness, Paul, your thoughts on what we witnessed yesterday at the Masters?
Chris, it just defies description. And first of all, I really love your Ali rope-a-dope analogy. I mean, because there really are parallels here. In both cases, you take untold punishment, and then you still got some kind of furious comeback in you. And it's the darndest thing I've ever seen. And let's go through the litany of why it's such a darn thing. First of all, he's 46 years old. Okay, forget everything else. Let's assume that he never scratched his knee. Let's assume that he was 100% healthy, that nothing had ever happened, that he had never had knee surgeries, that he'd never had back surgeries before we get to this horrendous accident 14 months ago. This is amazing. I didn't think there was any way that he was going to ever play competitive golf again. And if he did, Chris, as you indicated, I thought it would largely be kind of a symbolic thing, which would have had a lot of emotional impact in and of itself. But the fact that 14 months later, he goes to Augusta and shoots 1 under par in the first round, I just really don't have any way to explain this. And I'm hearing other people talk about the fact that obviously almost losing your leg has affected his walking gait. Well, yeah, I guess it would. And Augusta National is a very difficult place to walk because there are a lot of changes in terrain. There's a lot of ability to go hill climbing. You don't really see that watching on TV, but it's a difficult and long course to walk. So that really is the issue for him, because you look at that swing, and Chris, I just don't know how to explain this. He is swinging mechanically so well. He is so well balanced. He's getting so much into his shots. As he indicated, playing golf, hitting the golf ball is not the issue for him right now. It's walking. Now, realistically, I think that is going to take its toll, maybe starting today. But my goodness, after what he's already done, would anything surprise you? Excuse me, at this point at all?
Paul, I sent Chris a video I came across last night. It was a parody of a guy who does a great job of impersonating all the different golfers that are in the field. And he was joking that at everyone's press conference, it was all about Tiger, which I found really interesting. I know if you play on a team sport, you play on Tom Brady's team, you're probably going to have to field a lot of questions about Tom Brady, whether he's playing well or not. But when it's an individual sport, you're probably expecting to be asked about your game and what's going on in your mind. But a lot of these golfers probably feeling a lot of heat about Tiger, whether it's questions or just the overall conversation. Do you think it's warranted, maybe a little too much, or not enough given the circumstances of Tiger's comeback?
Well, it's just going to be that way. And I might have a little bit of a counter position on this. I think the other players love the fact that everybody is completely focused on Tiger Woods. Okay? I don't think they're jealous of that. I don't think they really want that attention. That gives them a chance to just do what they do. So I think they'd all be very, very happy to just get in front of a microphone and praise Tiger Woods and express the same kind of amazement that we're all expressing. I actually think this takes a lot of pressure off of them in an event like the Masters. And by the way, Shannon, I want to apologize about not answering your question about Debo just real quickly. I'm a Debo fan, but all of this stuff, people scrubbing their social media accounts, I'm done with that.
That's so weird, Paul. And it seems so childish to me. And obviously, and again, you and I, Paul, we go back to the Landry era Cowboys. So obviously we never saw Rayfield Wright's behavior on Twitter or social media, or Roger or Bob Lilly. But my God, or I mean, let's go more modern, Troy Aikman, or Tony Romo or Emmitt Smith. I find it so childish, Paul. And, maybe maybe their agents and their reps are telling them to do this because it is the thing you do now. It's the trend, whether you're Kyler Murray or whoever you are. But I so agree with you, Paul. I just, be a man, be a woman, be an adult, be a stand-up person for it. And as you said about Rayfield, do your job. And if you do your job, your employer, in this case, the National Football League or the San Francisco 49ers, should reward you. And if not, the way the NFL works, Paul, there's somebody out there who will reward you if you've got the skill set of a Deebo Samuels.
I just don't get it. It's just become the thing you do. It's like going to that old Mexican food restaurant chain, and hoisting up the flag on your table. Okay, this is now the new symbolic thing. Okay, what I have to do now to get attention is to scrub my social media account.
Man.
I just don't get it. And again, I think Deebo is a wonderful player. I mean, I really do. I'm a fan. I just think he's getting some really bad advice.
I do have to ask you finally, Paul, opening day, and obviously Tiger not only sucked up all the oxygen at the Masters, I think he sucked up all the oxygen in the world of sports, which is fine with me because it's such a great story. But there is, and I'm a bigger football fan than I am a baseball fan, as I think you are too. But there's something special about opening day. There's something very American about opening day. And the first game yesterday was at Wrigley Field in Chicago. I know St. Louis, the Cardinals, you used to be a sports anchor in St. Louis. It's a big deal there at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Astros took the best shots that Shohei Ohtani could give them last night, and they got out of there with a 3-1 win, which I think was a great win for the Astros. Just your thoughts on opening day baseball as we now begin baseball season.
It is reassuring. I mean, it really is. And you look at everything, that's going on in the world right now. I mean, we need baseball right now. And it is kind of a security blanket. And I got fired up yesterday. And you mentioned opening day in St. Louis. I've just been blessed, just been so fortunate with opportunities. But seeing that for so many years, opening day in St. Louis is a really big deal, and they bring out the Clydesdales and all of that. And then, watching the Astros do what they did. You got Ohtani running up there in triple digits pretty much from the jump, and he strikes out 9, and the Astros still find a way to get it done. I think what went on in the offseason was ugly. I think it was unnecessary. But I will say this. I'm grateful that they were able to patch it up, and I'm grateful that they're playing baseball. I wish they wouldn't trick the game up so much. If they do very much more of this, they're going to have to put a keg behind the mound because it's kind of becoming beer league softball to a degree. So I'm not a fan of that, but I am a fan of baseball, and I think this is a time in which it is sorely needed. So I'm glad it's back.
Finally, Paul, I can't recommend enough your website, radicallyrational.com. Not only your sports takes, as you mentioned, your sports blog is up, but the world is very, very unusual these days. And of course, what's going on in Ukraine is we should all be paying very close attention to it because it can affect us in very profound ways, in very ominous ways if things go south. For people who have yet to sample radicallyrational.com, which they should, what would you what would you tell them they're going to find there?
Well, thank you for asking. Hopefully, I hope they find entertainment there because it is an entertainment product, but it's an entertainment product that is based on events and facts. And the whole concept here is bringing facts back into fashion. We invented this because we found ourselves in a post-fact world where facts just didn't matter anymore. Nobody cared about facts. To an increasing degree, people were dismissing facts and even rejecting the concept of facts existing. Well, that's not going to work. So we're bringing facts back into fashion. We're trying to make simple sanity sexy again. And we're declaring that crazy ain't cool. So we're doing all of that, but we're trying to do it with in a humorous, entertaining vein. The phrase I use is we take the stuff seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. So that's where it's coming from. So if you go to radicallyrational.com, there's a sports blog daily. And by the way, today's blog is a tribute to the big cat.
Hmm.
There's a news blog daily. There are videos daily. And then we do big, kind of hyper polished up podcasts that we put on there as well. So it's something that I very much enjoy having the opportunity to do. And Chris, thank you so much for asking.
Well, and it is perfectly in your wheelhouse. I mean, you are doing what you do best when you contribute to the website radicallyrational.com. Coach A, Paul Alexander, enjoyed this incredible sports weekend that is ahead of us. We always appreciate your joining us. We'll talk to you next week.
Look forward to it. It was the Isley brothers who said, fight the power. I'm telling everybody, fight the pollen, because right now pollen is up 2 touchdowns over Coach.
That is tremendous. Thank you. Yeah, same here, Paul. It is knocking me out. First of all, Fight the Power is a great song. If you don't know it, go find it. Some lyrics might not be suitable for radio, but Fight the Pollen. We got it when we release our Chris, Shannon, Jeremy album. That's maybe that'll be one of our big hits. Fight the Pollen. I like that. Coming up, Shannon Salty Shakedown, sports history and sports birthdays. Don't forget, a little over an hour from now, boxing legend Oscar De La Hoya. He's in San Antonio to promote that big boxing event at the Alamo Dome tomorrow. We'll learn all about that. And Shannon has a big Tiger question for Oscar De La Hoya as well. It's all coming your way. We're with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show. Yeah, Eric, we got into that yesterday. I just think it's weird, that new technology. It just seems, I don't fully understand why baseball chose to do that at this time, but they did. And as Scott Manziera talked with us yesterday, some teams, like his team, the St. Louis Cardinals, at this time at least, are choosing not to use it. It's a little device on the catcher's wrist where he can call the pitch. It goes into the ear, a voice like an Alexa or somebody kind of voice in the ear of the pitcher will say what pitch and what location to be thrown. So, yep. But my point on that was, it's a radio frequency. I mean, somebody is going to be able to hack into that radio frequency. So, see, you got a Douglas Adams quote for us. There you have, Eric. That's a brilliant quote, man. Thank you for sharing that. That's a tremendous quote. All right. I got some ice there, which is necessary for my iced tea. You can't have iced tea without ice. Did somebody say ice? It's a George Gervin quote from a Jordan Ford commercial. Oh, I do have one hit of coffee left. Just a little skosh of coffee. So let us. All right, I'm going to make a coffee heating run. Give you some Jeremy Kolok for your viewing pleasure. Here we come. Woo! Woo!
With Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
Welcome in. It is Friday, April 8th. We are reacting and basking in the amazement of what Tiger Woods did yesterday. We're talking about that. We're talking about opening day and opening night. Last night, the Houston Astros take Shohei Ohtani's best shots, and they were amazing shots, but they get out of there with a 3-1 win over the LA Angels. If you've got Apple TV Plus tonight, you can catch the Astros and the Angels on that platform. I'm lucky enough to have it, so I will check that out. Later in the show, I definitely want to get into with Shannon. I did finish the most recent episode of Winning Time, the rise of the Lakers dynasty last night. And there's news about that series that we will get into as well. A shout out to Bill Brendel, who just joined us on the live video feed. And before we dive in to Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history and sports birthdays, don't forget there's lots of ways you can join us. Not only that live video feed via Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Michelle Johnson joins us from Marysville, Kansas. But the show is always crystal clear on that free iHeartRadio app. And you can talk to us in real time and send us an instant message with your voice on the talkback feature. There's a microphone button at the bottom of the screen. We get your messages instantly. We listen to them. We play them on the air. It's a way to get your voice on the radio quick and easy through that feature. All right, in a moment, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. But first, how about some sports birthdays and this day in sports history? 1966, the American Football League votes in 36-year-old Al Davis of the Oakland Raiders as its new commissioner when Joe Foss resigns. Not long after that, the AFL would merge with the NFL. They'd start playing this championship game between the two leagues that became known as the Super Bowl. Pretty big deal. On this day in 1968, Major League Baseball postpones opening day due to the assassination of civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Maybe your biggest event on this day in 1974, Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's home run record. They thought it would never happen. Hank Aaron hit number 715 off of LA Dodger Al Downing to break Babe Ruth's record in Atlanta. Greeting him at home plate, running out from the stands, a college kid with a microphone to interview Hank Aaron. That college kid's name was Craig Sager, and he wound up being an okay broadcaster himself down the line. On this day in 2001, the 65th Masters in Augusta, Tiger Woods wins his second Masters, his sixth major title, 2 strokes ahead of David Duval. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1912, Norwegian figure skater Sonja Henie. She won Olympic gold in 1928, 1932, 1936, and she got into the movies. She was an actress in a movie called My Lucky Star. Sonja Henie was born in Oslo, Norway. She passed away in 1969. Born on this day in 1940, John Hondo Havlicek, a Hall of Famer, a big part of those Celtics championships, along with Bill Russell. 8 NBA championships with the Boston Celtics. He was a 13-time All-Star, a 4-time All-NBA first-teamer. John Havlicek, born in Martins Ferry, Ohio. He passed away in 2019. Born on this day in 1946, Jim Catfish Hunter, Baseball Hall of Fame pitcher, Major League Baseball All-Star in 66, 67, 70, 72 through 76. Went to a whole bunch of World Series. Won the Cy Young in 74. Catfish Hunter was born in Hertford, North Carolina. He passed away in 1999. And finally, born on this day in 1949, broadcaster, boxing broadcaster, Monday Night Baseball broadcaster, Jim Lampley, born in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Those are your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, here it is, your weekend edition of the Salty Shakedown.
Chris, I don't know if this is a first in the world of sports, collegiate sports, that is, but it's certainly the first I'm hearing of it, and it comes at a very interesting time. Grambling State. They've got a new volleyball coach. The team went 11-17 last season. Apparently that was not good enough. So a new coach by the name of Chelsea Lucas was hired, and her first act of business was to individually speak to the then 19 players on that roster and say that their scholarship would not be renewed for the next year, that they
Whoa.
were cut. She cut everyone on that team. Open tryouts were then held for students of the university yesterday. She's looking to rebuild, and her thoughts were, obviously, she was brought in for a reason. The team wasn't good enough last year, so she is starting fresh. But, sir, it's not all 19 players' fault. Sometimes it really is the coach's fault. I mean, they still won 11 games. There's got to be something there. But can you imagine you being one of those volleyball players right now in this moment? First of all, it's April, so I think there's like a month left in the collegiate school year. So they've still got to be there for a month. And now they're having to, either jump in the transfer portal, or I don't even know if you have to go the transfer portal route if you get cut from a team, if you can just kind of become a free agent and get recruited like you're in high school all over again. But that's got to be rough. And the fact, I think where I have an issue is all of them were cut. Why not just do it all at once? Why not let them? I mean, you individually brought them in one by one to give them that conversation. I've never heard of something like this. I think it's quite crazy. I don't know if they all deserve to have their scholarships taken away. What kind of recruiting tactic is that now? You as the new head coach. Well, what if my daughter doesn't perform because of this, that, or the other? Or if the whole team doesn't perform, is my daughter going to be punished because the team as a whole didn't perform well and she'll be cut at the next semester? I just don't know how to take this, Chris. Quite the move coming from new coach Lucas at Grambling State.
I agree with you, Shannon. In all my life, I've never heard a story like this. A new coach comes in and cuts everyone on that team. And as you said, they were 11-17. They weren't 0-28 or 1-27. 11-17 isn't great, but they won 11 matches. Wow. Just a stunning story, and now something to watch. Let's see who gets on that volleyball team. Let's see what their record is next year.
Yeah, Grambling State, some odd headlines this spring. As we recall, Art Briles was hired there by Hugh Jackson for like all of 3 days before he stepped aside. So now Grambling State dealing with this. Lots of changes over there. All right, keeping it in college athletics. Obviously, NIL has changed the game for so many student athletes, and a lot of them are making bank, but not all of them are. But in August of 2020, it was announced that schools could actually pay student athletes who achieved academically. And that number came out to $5,980 per school year. And they actually went through some court proceedings to come up with that number, finding that it would equate to a value of awards that would be related to athletic performance. But Chris, of 130 NCAA FBS level schools that have the ability to pay for players to, if you went to class, you did what you need to do, you took care of business that makes you eligible to play, here's almost $6,000. Only 22 schools are actually doing it. Only 22 schools are actually paying their players. On the list: Arkansas, Auburn, Clemson, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Iowa State, Kentucky, LSU, Miami, Missouri, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, Oregon, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Texas Tech, Washington, and Wisconsin. So a lot of Big 12 schools, and their USC, who had no problem paying Reggie Bush and his family during their time, but does not want to reward their student athletes for academic excellence at a school that is pretty hard to get, first of all, into academically and then continue to make the grades. Listen, I understand some schools saying, they just don't have, the people. There's some schools are saying they'll not make bonus payments this year, but maybe make them next year. Other schools are saying outright that they have no plans to ever get in on this deal. But schools like USC, I find interesting to not be on this list of already saying, yes, we're doing it.
Yeah, I shame on my alma mater, your school, Shannon, Texas, Jeremy's school, Oklahoma State, on the right side of this issue. I really like the idea of doing this, Shannon. Athletes can make money so many ways with NIL now, but the bottom line is classroom, and to motivate them in any way you can to go to class and to learn and to get an education. Because, only a small percentage of them, even at these big football factories, are going to go to the NFL. So, and probably most of them believe they will have a shot at the NFL. And it just, because all of them have been, golden gods at football in their respective communities and high schools. So I like it. Good on Texas, Oklahoma State, and the other of the 22. And USC, get your act together. Lincoln Riley, I hope you're listening.
Again, that's 130 eligible schools that can pay their athletes for performing well academically. Only 22 schools as of right now actually doing it. All right, finally today, Chris, we previewed it a little bit yesterday. We even talked about the Braves. They're offering a $151 World Champion burger. There's also a $25,000 version that comes with a World Series replica ring. So we're going to talk ballpark food, and I've kind of got it down to kind of a main, a snack, something more dessert-like, and also beverages. So let's start with the Rangers. Okay, the Rangers are offering new this year an alligator corn dog. Looks just like a regular corn dog, except it's made with alligator and Duel sausage. Of course, it comes on a stick because that is what makes something a corn dog. Chris, I tried alligator for the first time a couple months ago. I actually really enjoyed it. It was also fried, much like a corn dog. That probably helped. It also had sauce all over it. But that's got to be one of the more interesting cuts of meat I think you could find in a ballpark.
Yeah, I have never had alligator. I've never even thought about having alligator. It's never been offered to me. But that is weird. So as you mentioned, Shannon, your alligator was, covered in sauce, but did you like, how was alligator?
Tastes like chicken. I like chicken. There you go.
There you go.
The Astros,
especially chicken wings now, as we know.
The Astros, speaking my language, but you've got to be living the sweet life in order to enjoy this new perk out at Minute Maid Park. They have a Bartison cocktail machine that is a robot cocktail machine that can make cocktails in 30 seconds. And once again, though, you do have to be in the suites in order to enjoy that. Listen, when I was on the U of H campus, they had food delivery robots roaming around campus just constantly. And it made me feel like a slow person because they were outpacing me and lapping me at points. But they were all over the place. This is just the new thing. Obviously, it'd be hard to do it out in the regular stands. But if I'm in one of those suites, I would become best friends with that robot.
Yes. Food delivery robots. First of all, you hadn't told us that yet
about
your experience recently on the U of H campus, but that's crazy. But yeah, a cocktail in 30 seconds. And I mean, think about this across the country. Look out, bartenders. If your gig is being a bartender, you are about to be replaced by a robot very shortly as well, I imagine. Yeah,
that's the first I'd heard of a cocktail robot. I've seen like the coffee ones at airports, but cocktails, that's next level stuff. Speaking of next level, popcorn, a staple at so many sporting venues, but the Orioles, they want to next level it with different and what I think of just weird flavors. Ghost pepper. So if you just want to burn your face off while watching a baseball game, go ahead, grab you a bag of that. Spooky fruit, which I would assume is sort of like a Fruity Pebbles flavored popcorn. And then banana. Chris, I don't like bananas to begin with. Don't mess with my popcorn like that. That's nasty. If you want something banana flavored, how about eat a banana? How about that?
Yes. I do kind of like bananas. And as a kid, I remember liking banana flavored candy. I would not shun the banana flavor as much as you would. I would sample it.
Okay.
Personally.
All right. Finally, listen, a lot of these items and food items that you purchase, they do cost a pretty penny, but they also come in huge portion sizes. And so you may want to split, or you may be deciding between getting something more of a meal or picking something that's super sweet. But if you're at the Royals ballpark, you don't have to choose, sir, because this year they are offering a barbecue Reese's sandwich. The sandwich has pulled pork, bacon, Reese's cups, and barbecue sauce. I love Reese's. I love barbecue. I do not love them together, Chris. This is disgusting.
Jeremy is shaking his head no on that one. I'm with Jeremy. I'm with you. And I do love barbecue and I do love Reese's. But some things are not meant to be combined. And I think that's two of them right there.
Yeah, I think there's a reason that every year we have this kind of rundown of MLB new food offerings because not all of them last an entire season. There it is, today's Salty Shakedown.
Outstanding salty shakedown as always. Bill Brendel, you were talking about paying athletes, and they don't do it at USC. Bill Brendel says USC should pay the song girls. I'm with you, Bill Brendel. Those song girls, almost like the Laker girls, have certainly earned their respect. Laker girls featured in the most recent episode of Winning Time. We've got news on the Winning Time series on HBO and HBO Max. We'll dive into that. More on Tiger and Oscar De La Hoya coming up in the next hour. Boxing legend Oscar De La Hoya. He's got a big match he's promoting in San Antonio tomorrow at the Alamo Dome. We'll get into that and more till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Bill Brendel, I am always there for the USC song girl reference. They should be paid. All right. One more hour. Oh, and Jeremy, I've got a phone number I'll bring you of Oscar De La Hoya's assistant. It's a cell number. He's supposed to call us at 8:35. If for any reason he doesn't, if you can call that assistant and we'll still try to wrangle him in just as a backup. Hopefully it comes off smoothly, but if it doesn't, I'll bring you that right now before I forget. Yeah, so Oscar De La Hoya at 8:35. I always, and this has happened to me a couple of times, when it's like a big time guest who's calling you. You know, we like to have the number and call our guests, but often if you're a big deal like Oscar De La Hoya, they want to call us because they don't want their number getting out. But when that happens and you promote it and promote it and promote it, and then sometimes they're not there. That happened to me once with T.O. Terrell Owens. And so then I just started joking. I said, T.O. blew us off. And I was just having fun with it, I thought. Anyway, T.O. finally called in like 2 segments later, which wouldn't work this morning because this is our last segment at 8:35 when we are scheduled with Oscar. But the woman kind of publicizing him was so angry at me for just joking. She goes, "I'll never give you another guest again." It was a joke. I was making light of the fact that T.O. wasn't showing up with us. So some people take things very seriously. Okay, where's that number? There it is. Two 213-604-776. Oh, I better not say that out loud, should I? You guys don't want to be calling. And that's not Oscar. That's someone else who schedules him anyway. So. All righty. All right. Here we go. Gonna mute for our evil Facebook overlords. Roger Lopez, welcome in. Headed to South Padre. Good man.
This is the
That's cool. Gonna mute for a moment for our evil Facebook overlords.
now Chris Duel.
What a day yesterday was in sports. Opening day of Major League Baseball. Of course, Tiger Woods, a phenomenal performance at the Masters. We've been talking about it all morning long. We will talk more about it. And what a sports weekend that is coming our way. Tiger might continue to do incredible things at the Masters, might be in contention by Sunday when it reaches its final round in San Antonio this weekend. Tomorrow at the Alamo Dome, a huge boxing event that is being presented by boxing legend Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions. Oscar De La Hoya scheduled to join us this hour at 8:35. We'll talk about that, all things boxing, and Shannon also, Oscar De La Hoya apparently has some takes on Tiger Woods that Shannon will certainly ask him about. That should be a lot of fun, and that's only about 25, 28 minutes away from talking Oscar De La Hoya. By the way, we haven't talked a lot of Spurs, just to pass it along with you, and we'll get into it a little bit this morning. Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Spurs last night, 127-121. Timberwolf Anthony Edwards, a career high 49. That loss made it very likely the Spurs will stay in that 10 slot when they face the New Orleans Pelicans in the play-in game next Wednesday night. We now know that game is. The magic number now for New Orleans to get the number 9 slot over the Spurs is 1. So each team has 2 games to play. New Orleans has a 2-game lead on the Spurs. So all 4 games would have to go the Spurs' way. Spurs would have to win their final 2 against Golden State and at Dallas, and New Orleans would have to lose its final 2 at Memphis and against Golden State. Now, at Memphis and at Golden State, you could lose those 2. But can the Spurs then, if that happened, beat Golden State here tomorrow night and then at Dallas facing Shannon Salty Sweeney's team on Sunday night? A tall order. Unlikely, let's be realistic. So probably Spurs at New Orleans for the play-in game next Wednesday night. Shannon, when I got home from the Spurs game last night, I can't go right to sleep. I wish I could because we have an early wake-up call. But I said, all right, I'm not going to fall asleep immediately. I've got a half of winning time, rise of the Lakers dynasty to watch. It was... once again, lived up to expectations. I highly recommend it. It's highly entertaining. We saw the birth of the Laker girls as we know them. And as you mentioned in your review of that episode earlier this week, finally the start of the regular season. We got kind of more into the head of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, some of the blowback he got from his name change and his conversion to Islam. All in all, though, once again, great characters, very stylistic, entertaining, compelling presentation of this storyline and these characters, and I'm still digging it, man. It is must-see TV for me.
Well, and as you alerted me to, they've already pushed it forward for a season 2 on HBO Max. So I think the question now is, does it keep with this current era, or do they maybe jump to a different era of the Lakers? My guess, personally, just based on what I've seen, they're 5 episodes in, and they just started the season. And obviously this is an era, and so far 5 episodes in, we've gone just a couple months. So I would think that they do 1, maybe 2 more seasons of this era before they consider jumping forward in time. You know, ride this one out for as long as you can.
But and you think about that, Shannon, and for this franchise on HBO, Winning Time, and it is, the subtitle currently is Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. So that means, and the Jeff Pearlman book was about Magic and Kareem and that era, the Pat Riley era. But if you think about this, if this continues to be successful and so many people seem to love it, my God, you look at the storylines, if they chose to go into the Kobe and Shaq era, and again, that's not in the Pearlman book, but that doesn't necessarily matter if HBO chooses to keep this going and it continues to be popular. If it ultimately, after multiple seasons, goes into the Shaq and Kobe era, my gosh, you got a gazillion storylines there as well. This could just keep on going. It's very fascinating.
LeBron James wishes.
Well, and I wonder though, as much as the Lakers suck this year and it's going badly, and as I say that, LeBron James playing one of his best games ever, and certainly at his age, performing very, very well. But this Winning Time drama reminds us of the greatness of the Showtime era for the Los Angeles Lakers, and it's almost at a time when the Lakers are having one of their most disappointing seasons ever compared to their expectations coming into the season. A lot of people said they're going to the finals against the Brooklyn Nets, and both of those teams, Brooklyn limping maybe into the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, but the Lakers done, eliminated from the playoffs. I think it makes things more difficult for LeBron and the Lakers to be reminded of Magic and Kareem and the greatness that once was on this Lakers franchise.
Yeah, and it goes back to that shirt that LeBron was wearing when they were officially eliminated from potentially playing in the playoffs, where it was just all of the legends of Lakers past, and whether or not he'll be a part of that is a discussion. I want to say there was a mural of some sort in LA that had all of those Lakers legends, and then when LeBron came, the debate was, should he be added? And he maybe even was added just as like, the king is here kind of thing. But, you compare what's going on right now with the Lakers, as you say, with this Showtime. It's almost like they did it on purpose. Like, look at this distraction. Let's not forget the Lakers organization is nothing to laugh about here.
Very, 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 very cool. And before we move on to another streaming offering involving a sport that's getting a lot of noise, Jeremy, like Shannon and me, you are a viewer and you're all caught up on Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. Next episode will drop on Sunday night after we've watched the Masters all day, and we'll see what Tiger Woods can accomplish at the Masters this weekend. But you're on board as well, I do believe, and from an entertainment value. And for you and Shannon, it's like, I remember this stuff. That's why I find it fascinating that it works for you and Shannon, because a lot of this stuff. Yeah, I mean, you've heard of Kareem and Magic and Pat Riley and this era, but you didn't actually live through it, which makes it, I think, interesting that a lot of these are kind of new revelations to you.
Yeah, I did. As I'm watching, I can't stop thinking about, like, there seems to be like a divide between the generation, between the eras of basketball, to where, like, when Larry Bird kind of came into his prime and when Magic was a little bit older, there was just more video and more clips, and you just see more, more Michael Jordan highlights, and just 90s highlights, Patrick Ewing and whatnot, than you see of the Showtime Lakers, and much more so before them, because what I was thinking is I haven't seen Jerry West play basketball, minus 1 or 2, maybe 3 clips here, and it's the same with Kareem. I mean, Kareem is before Michael Jordan, he was considered the GOAT, and many
Yeah.
people still have him on their basketball Mount Rushmore, and a
Yes.
lot of people still consider him above Jordan and Michael and LeBron James. They still consider Kareem the GOAT, and I'm just thinking about how my generation has not seen. I mean, you've seen clips of the skyhook, but most of us have not really seen Kareem's game with our own 2 eyes. So when I'm watching, like you mentioned, this newest episode was really Kareem heavy, and it's kind of not only diving into Kareem off the court, which is that could be a show in itself,
Yeah.
but it's also kind of showcasing the relationship between Magic and Kareem, and how, how they're trying to build that bond, or at least Magic is. And I'm watching their practices, I'm thinking about, is this what Kareem looked like? Is that what Kareem looked like when he turned around and went to the basket? That's what I'm thinking about, because like you mentioned, my generation never saw these people. There just wasn't, maybe you know the reason better than me, but there's not much video of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar playing basketball out there.
Yeah, and video didn't hit the way it certainly did later. But as a guy who watched Kareem play, and when I moved to Los Angeles in '81 to go to USC, where the series is right now is 1979. I mean, Showtime was happening in a big way. I paid a lot of attention to the Lakers. But to answer your question, yes, the casting for Kareem and Magic in particular, the mannerisms, the look, the vocal delivery, the on-court playing style, that the guy playing Kareem, the way he's moving on the court, the way he's doing the sky hook, it looks very much like Kareem. I mean, these guys did their homework and certainly probably had coaches from a physicality standpoint to try to look like the Lakers on the court. So yeah, and what we're about to see, and I saw previews of upcoming weeks that they showed. I saw a clip with Magic and Larry Bird going at it, and a lot of people pre-Michael Jordan, who showed up, I guess, around 82, pre-Michael Jordan, it is said that Magic and Kareem Magic and Larry Bird saved the NBA because it was kind of floundering. Franchises were losing money. Interest was waning. And then all of a sudden, Showtime happened in LA. Larry Bird happened in Boston. And the Celtics and the Lakers started meeting in the finals. And it was Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird. And it became a big deal. Then, a couple of years later, Michael Jordan shows up and blew the roof off of the popularity of the NBA. Then it became an international game and, exploded into what it is today. Now, Shannon, on my list is another sports-related offering from HBO Max involving another GOAT. This guy, the GOAT in the world of skateboarding. Have you seen it yet? And what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, Tony Hawk's Until the Wheels Fall Off is a documentary. Came out this week on HBO Max. And, I'm a big fan of Tony Hawk. I grew up playing the games. It got me into attempting to skateboard. Didn't really go very far with that. But, it was really interesting to see kind of how he got into it. And I didn't realize, they said this on the show, how cyclical skateboarding is, right? It's not a mainstay like MLB and the NFL and the NBA, right? It ebbs and flows as far as interest. And Tony Hawk in the early 2000s really kind of brought it back into the forefront in himself. But he went through it. I mean, it opened with him today attempting to do a trick, and he is falling over and over and over. We talk about NFL players going into a car crash every time they attempt something. I think we think of skateboarders of they either fall and they completely break something, or they land the trick, and that's just not true. They are beating up their body time and time again. And this guy now, I think he's like 53, continues to skate at a high level, and so continues to take those beatings, right? He just broke his femur. But the really interesting thing was he got into it really, really young. He turned pro one day when he was just at an event, and instead of checking the amateur box, he checked the pro box, and that was just kind of it. And I think he was like 13 at the time. And
Wow.
skateboarding, he had these skateboard figures that he looked up to, and he was part of their organization. And then they were kind of rock stars. They were traveling the world, performing for so many crowds. But then, the 90s hit, mid 90s, and skateboarding just kind of went away. And he had, at the time, been making a really nice living off of skateboarding and had multiple homes and, had his own company. But then he was having to go back to one of his homes that he purchased and break down the skateboarding park so he could sell the home so he could make a living. He was working odd jobs. But then ultimately skateboarding kind of had another boom, and he brought it into the forefront. I mean, that he got it to where they were performing in sold out arenas across the US night after night. His video game came out after the first 4 releases of Tony Hawk Pro Skater. He made $4.5 million. And then they came back and they said, we want more. Here's $22 million in advance. And ever since then, it's just really blown up. And I think we're kind of back in that cycle of again. And once again, thanks to him and being the forefront of, here's this documentary about the lifestyle, and here's my story within it. Also, here's a revamped version of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, potentially meaning that there's another one coming out, a brand new one. Hopefully, I'm waiting for that. But with the rise of the X Games, 2021 technically Olympics having skateboarding involved, Tony Hawk is crazy. And I think a lot of people have the misconception about skateboarding that it's all like these, kind of hipstery dudes. So it was really funny to see the one guy in there who is really skateboarding and landing tricks. Like it tells you about who you are, and it comes from the heart. There was that one guy that you're like, oh, you are not helping the cause, bro.
Well, it's interesting. On a day and embarking on a weekend that we talk about goats, Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Shannon had us earlier today talking about Muhammad Ali and Michael Jordan and Hank Aaron and, everybody who would like a goat in their, skateboarding, it's Tony Hawk, man.
Yeah.
It's because of who he is and what he did. I can't name another professional skateboarder, but it's Tony Hawk is the dude. So, I've never really skateboarded. I just a little got on. It's not in my DNA. I couldn't stay.
You didn't longboard when you were out in LA, just hitting up the beach and.
I did.
Come
not.
on.
I led a sheltered life, but Tony Hawk, man, just to see a guy who revolutionized that sport and just made it infinitely bigger than it was. I look forward to checking that out.
Yeah, it's really fascinating for anyone, even if you don't like skateboarding or the idea of it being an Olympic sport. His story and the story of skateboarding and the cyclical cycle that it's had is pretty incredible. It is 2 hours though, I'll tell you that. Make time.
Yeah, I will make time. I may watch it in 2 installments. Back to the Masters for just a moment, and don't forget Oscar De La Hoya, boxing legend, going to join us at 8:35. Tiger Woods, part of what he did yesterday, apparently using some colorful language. Is that right?
Yeah, we talked about Tiger at the beginning of the show, and that he looks like the Tiger of old, and part of that comes with the colorful Tiger, whether it be a fist pump or an expletive that he screams near one of those hot mics due to one of his balls rolling off the green after a pretty nice shot. Can't say it on the air, but yeah, Tiger's certainly back in full form in all aspects of his game.
And while Tiger got most of the headlines yesterday, Matthew Wolff with a bit of a headline. What do we know about that?
Well, I'll let Jeremy handle this one because he's Jeremy's boy. He's an OSU alum, and there was a reason that Jeremy did not pick him during our draft yesterday with Andy. So Jeremy, I'll let you take it away here.
Well, I think he's a great golfer, but about 3 weeks ago, he's been struggling recently, but about 3 weeks ago, after, a shot that he wasn't too thrilled about, he was standing next to, a little pond, just a little water hazard, and it was pretty smooth, but it was like a bat flip almost. He just flipped his club into the lake, into the pond or whatever. So I saw that and I was like, I don't know about this guy. I don't know if he's in the right headspace right now to be winning the Masters for me. So then yesterday, like I said, he hasn't been golfing up to his standards recently, and, I don't remember what hole it was on, but it was pretty early. It was on, like, hole 4 or something, and, of course, the front 9 on Thursday at the Masters, he 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 broke his club. He rendered it useless, and, when you do that on the front 9 on Thursday of the Masters,
Yeah.
it's usually not a good sign, so it looks like I dodged a bullet with Matthew Wolff here, but I actually had a phone call with one of my buddies last night who he covers golf kinda on the side for the Oklahoman. He does other things for the Oklahoman, and, he said he thinks that Matthew Wolff he changed something mechanically that is just messing with his head terribly, and, I mean, it doesn't look good for him.
My goodness, I think we can begin to call him a hothead. We shall see. Coming up, Oscar De La Hoya promoting a tremendous boxing match and card here in San Antonio tomorrow at the Alamo Dome. We will talk boxing and even Tiger with Oscar De La Hoya, one of the greatest, most legendary boxers there ever was. He joins us next. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok makes the show go. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show.
been through it all, but so I know the ins and outs. I know what's right, what's wrong. Yeah, whenever they ask for help, I'm here for them, and that's the beauty about being an fighter turned promoter. I've been through it all, and the knowledge I can give them inside the ring, outside the ring is so valuable to them, and they appreciate it, which is awesome. So, yeah, it's great to be able to and just show them the way, because boxing is a tough sport. Any sport is tough, and you have to have that mental toughness to make it in this sport. So it's always a pleasure talking to these kids.
Well, Oscar, obviously you had a great career boxing yourself, and as you said, you turned promoter. What about staying with the sport and becoming a promoter? Why did you go that path? A lot of guys end up just hanging it up when they're done, but then there are guys that want to coach or stick around the game. Why was the promoter position the right call for you?
I love business. I love the building of business, and I love boxing so much. And when I first started, I believe it was 22 years ago when I started Golden Boy Promotions. It was actually after one of my fights, and I fought for like 3 days because I was so sore. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm gonna start a company that's gonna just help fighters. That's gonna build champions. Young kids, fulfill their goals, fulfill their dreams, keep the sport alive. And I decided, hey, let's become a promoter and help the boxing community out, help these young kids out. And it's been a lot of fun ever since. I mean, look, it hasn't been a walk in the park, because you have a lot of personalities, a lot of babysitting. These fighters can be difficult at times, but for the most part, it's been a lot of fun, and just building all these champions and working with them. I mean, I've had with Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. We built Canelo Alvarez, and now Ryan Garcia. It's a lot of fun.
My goodness, what a stable of boxers you've been involved with, Oscar, and certainly, as Shannon mentions, your amazing career in the ring as well. We're talking with Oscar De La Hoya, his company, Golden Boy Promotions, the big event tomorrow at the Alamo Dome, the return, Ryan Garcia, Emmanuel Tago. Ryan Garcia, the next big thing in boxing. I mean, he's already huge. Tickets available at Ticketmaster.com. Oscar, you just mentioned, keeping the sport alive. I love boxing. I grew up when Muhammad Ali was in his heyday. And then, Muhammad Ali, gave way to, boxers like George Foreman, and ultimately you then became the guy in boxing for a number of years as well. You talked about keeping the sport alive in an era where there's mixed martial arts and other kinds of fighting that is not boxing out there, but is getting a lot of run and a lot of notoriety and views. Is it harder? Putting on an event, is it harder for boxers, and is it harder to promote when there are other sports options out there which are similar but not exactly like boxing?
Yeah, no, we actually complement each other. I mean, the MMA fans are curious to see what's going on the other side of the road. And vice versa. I think that the combat sports right now, and boxing has been around forever. When it's like they say, when you build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
If you make the big fights happen, people watch, and there's a reason why. Somebody like Conor McGregor made the most money, not inside an octagon, but inside a boxing ring against Floyd Mayweather. Boxing will always be a sport where if you have the two best guys inside the ring, people are going to watch. And so, We just have to make sure that we continue that tradition and make the big fights happen. And so it's an uphill battle for me because, being the next fighter and being a fighter that took on the very best all the time, it's like as a promoter, I want to make these big fights happen, but these other promoters who are just stubborn, who haven't laced up a glove, who don't know what it's like to be inside the ring. They think about the business too much. So it's a little uphill battle, but it's a battle we're gonna win. I think it's a matter of time that a fighter like Ryan Garcia crowns himself world champion, and we're going after the very best.
It's going to be a great sports weekend along with this fight. There's, opening week of baseball, the NBA season coming to an end, and obviously the Masters and all of the Tiger talk. And I was looking at your social media, Oscar, and you placed a bet on Tiger to win it all. I know you're a golfer yourself. I've seen you on the course, in fact, with one of my all-time favorites, Justin Timberlake. So I want to know, have you ever played with Tiger, and what made you so confident that Tiger could win the Masters once again this weekend?
I mean, Tiger has that killer instinct. I mean, if he was a fighter, he would be like a Sugar Ray Leonard. He would be like a Julio Cesar Chavez or a Muhammad Ali. Like, he knows how to close the show, and not everybody can close the show. Whether he's been out of a game for a while, whether he's hurt, whatever it might be, he knows how to close the show. That's what he knows how to do. And I'm actually watching the Masters right now as we talk on the phone. But I love watching the very best, and I love watching the elites and how the mind and why it works the way it works. I mean, it's just fascinating to me. And so, people talk to me about Tiger Woods, or people talk to me about the very best fighters out there. It's the mind. It's so strong and conditioned. There's nothing that can break it. And so, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, when Oscar De La Hoya thinks Tiger Woods can win the Masters, then we should be paying attention. And certainly after Tiger's first round yesterday, he is in contention to win it. Finally, Oscar, again, we can't encourage people enough. Tomorrow, it is the place to be, the Alamo Dome, the return. As you mentioned, Ryan Garcia, so highly touted. We could see the beginnings of a legendary career, and certainly the fact that Golden Boy Promotions is behind him, that you're behind Ryan Garcia and believe in him. It just adds more to the excitement and to the allure of this big fight tomorrow at the Alamo Dome, the return. Again, tickets on sale right now at Ticketmaster.com. And I know there's already, as we talked about, San Antonio, Oscar, being a boxing town. So there's a lot of people already locked in and certain that they're going to this fight tomorrow at the Alamo Dome. For people who might not have yet gone to see a fight of this magnitude at a venue like the Alamo Dome and might be thinking about, maybe this is the time I should go. What would you say to the people who might be thinking about going? Why should they be there at the Alamo Dome tomorrow night?
Don't miss history in the making. You don't want to regret it. Ryan Garcia is the next guy. He's here in San Antonio. I'm sure he will come back and fight here as a world champion. I'll make sure of that. But you don't want to miss history in the making. That's the bottom line. And there's nothing like a boxing event at this level. I mean, look, I've been to world, to Super Bowls, to NBA championships, to you name it. But there's something about a fight at the highest level, at the elite level. There's nothing like it. It's electric. It's just, I mean, there's something in the air that you can feel that is just beautiful. So come check it out.
Oscar De La Hoya, we are so honored in San Antonio that you bring a fight like this to San Antonio and the Alamo Dome. And we love hearing that down the line, as Ryan Garcia, we expect is just going to continue to ascend in his boxing career, that we will see him again, and we will probably see him again here as a world champion. Oscar, it's an honor for Shannon, for me, to talk with you. Thank you for all you do for boxing. Thank you for bringing this great boxing event to San Antonio and the Alamo Dome tomorrow. I hope you're right on Tiger Woods, and I hope Tiger Woods and Ryan Garcia have a huge, huge weekend. Thanks for taking the time with us. Enjoy the fight tomorrow night.
All right, brother. Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate you, and let's go, Tiger.
Let's go, Tiger! Thank you, Oscar De La Hoya. Wow. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. You know, we talk about the GOATs, and you name like the 5 biggest boxers of the last few decades, and Oscar De La Hoya is on that list. And I love it. He's talking about Tiger, just, you know, the mindset it takes to be a champion.
He knows my name. Can we cut that, Jeremy? Can we keep that for forever?
Save that.
Yeah, we already got it cut.
Yeah, he didn't say goodbye, Chris. He said goodbye, Shannon.
We got goodbye, Shannon.
What a good Friday.
Woo. That is so cool. That is so cool. Finally, Shannon, it was our poll question. How do we think Tiger's going to do now that we've got some evidence? Round 1 under par 71. So cool. Oscar De La Hoya is watching the Masters while he's talking to us on the phone. What's your expectation for Tiger Woods throughout this weekend?
You know, I'm going to say he makes the cut and probably go middle of the pack here. You know, Paul talked about today, you know, the issue really isn't him hitting. It's walking. It's taking on the course. He was already there a couple of days, you know, doing practice runs, and now we're doing the real thing. And 18 holes, you know, walking that much as well as playing is going to be, you know, once again, a first for him. So it'll be interesting to see just how well he can handle that, and if, you know, his game ends up suffering because he gets tired of walking.
As Oscar De La Hoya just told us, go Tiger, go Tiger, go Ryan Garcia. Tickets available at Ticketmaster for the Ryan Garcia Emmanuel Tago fight tomorrow at the Alamo Dome. It's going to be huge. And as Oscar said, you're witnessing history. Ryan Garcia is becoming a big, big deal in boxing and a champion in all probability someday. Our thanks to Paul Alexander. Thanks to the legend, Oscar De La Hoya. Thank you to Jeremy Kolok for making the show go. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Go Tiger. Have yourself a great sports weekend. Go Spurs, go. We will see you on Monday. React to Tiger and more. Have a great weekend, everybody. Wow, that was fun. Yeah, I didn't, Blackbird, I did not ask Tiger what he was wearing. Nope. All right, y'all. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Jason Paniagua. 61 hours, sir. Thank you. All right. We're out. I'll be on the Spurs broadcast tomorrow night and Sunday night and watching a lot of Tiger. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe, especially with all the Fiesta drunks out there. We'll see you Monday.